What is up? What is up? What is up, everybody? My name is Brady McGrath, and as always, I am joined by Cam Garrity. And today is different because today
It's
is
a
a
special
Bobbyless
episode.
podcast. Sad, no
And
Bobby
without
today,
Bobby.
without Bobby, but we're always thinking about you, Bobby. You're always in our hearts. Nothing's wrong with him, but
Yeah.
we just love him. Today's a special episode. Cam, why don't
Especially
you
as
talk about it a little bit?
especially for those on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
So if you want to have a little bit of fun with this and you're looking to watch a video, we are doing our first mock draft special episode. This is not going to be a regular podcast. What me and Brady are going to be doing is we're going to be picking, going back and forth for every single team in the first round, giving our opinion on what we think they will do and what they should do, and then we're going to make a decision based on that. And also based on whoever else has been picked. There are draft pick tradings in this as well. If you're on YouTube, it's a little bit easier to follow around like what we're kind of doing in a sense, but if you are listening to us audio wise, just pay attention. It's really not that complex. But today we are brought to you by, because this is still a podcast episode, we are brought to you by Sunnyside. Brady, tell us about Sunnyside.
Sunnyside Sports and more. Get your autographs, collectibles, and more at Sunnyside. You can win some pretty amazing stuff. Last week, they just had a Dexter Lawrence jersey on there, along with a Gale Sayers jersey. They gave both of those away in one episode. Just think about
Singular
that.
episode.
Singular live. They gave away those two great jerseys. I actually won something else a few days ago.
What'd you win?
I won a signed Willie Mo Pena picture.
Oh my god.
Of him
You gotta get that framed.
just cranking a home run, just useless Willie Mo Pena.
That's future home bar material.
Yo,
Framed.
100%.
Like,
it's like, who the hell? It's
you
like
just got
yeah, I
Willie
bet you-
Mo. Like,
Yeah, I bet you don't have a Willie Mo picture in your man cave.
no, 100% you don't.
You 100% don't. I'm gonna be the only one.
I know.
But yeah, so today the way that we're gonna do it is we are gonna alternate within picks. So I'm gonna take all the odds, Cam's gonna take all the evens. But of course, to protect our own interest, Cam will be doing the Lions at 7, and I will be doing the Chargers
At
So,
13. And another kicker is for the Patriots. We're not gonna do anything different, so it will just be whoever it lands on. So Brady, you are on the clock with the first overall pick as the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm pretty sure I know where you're going with this.
So with all of everything that's going on, with Urban Meyer talking about how it's such an open field and how there's plenty of great quarterbacks in the draft and they know they're going to take one of Wilson, Lawrence, and Fields. Everybody's saying, oh, he could take Justin Fields. He could do all of this. But with the first overall pick in the 2021 NFL draft,
Kadarius Toney.
the Jacksonville Jaguars select Trevor Lawrence. It is the
100%.
easiest selection. It is the easiest selection in the draft, and I want to say the past 15 years. There is nobody.
It's
in their
as
right
as
mind.
easy as Andrew Luck back in the Colts
Oh,
draft.
100%. I just think that if anybody is sitting there and actually taking what Urban Meyer is saying, just to heart and being
What
like,
he's
oh,
saying-
you might not draft Lloyd.
What he's
just
saying
doing a
is to
coach
garner
thing.
to see what he's doing is if one of those teams in the top 5 really, really want like Zach Wilson, he's basically playing his hand so that team trades up to the number 1 overall pick and he can still get Trevor Lawrence. That's what he's doing.
Exactly. He's trying to keep his hand, but I bet there are plenty of teams that are not that stupid.
Yeah.
I don't care what organization you are. No man is that stupid to think that you won't take Trevor Lawrence. And for some reason, Urban Meyer, if you find a way to mess this up, you will make a Mitch Trubisky-sized mistake. And going on to Mitch Trubisky,
I was just about to say that. It's my pick, the number 2 overall pick, where I think the Jets are going to go. What I actually think the Jets should be doing is not even drafting a quarterback at this point. Is I think they should be going after Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith, even Jalen Waddle. I would be okay with Kyle Pitts at number 2 if I were them, because they just need offensive talent. They just need talent in general. The mistake that they are going to make, which is what I think is going to happen. Now, we've decided this mock draft is going to be a little bit of both of what we think and what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So I think what they're going to do is they're going to go ahead and draft Zach Wilson number 2, which will be a mistake, which will be another Mitch Trubisky mistake.
I think so,
and
too.
They will end up having to trade Sam Darnold once that pick happens or before that pick happens. And hopefully they do get a couple of third, fourth rounders, because you saw Carson Wentz get traded for a couple of for a third rounder and a future second. So I think if they can do that for Darnold, which I think could get a third rounder from some teams, they might be able to, in the third round, kind of fill those holes on offense otherwise. But I'm going Zach Wilson here. And to keep in mind, for those listening, we can do trades. So we will trade on this, because we know that there's probably going to be at least 1 or 2 trades in the first round. So we will actually end up doing that.
We'll look into it. We'll look into it with that side. But I just want to say one thing with the whole entire Zach Wilson pick. I think that Zach Wilson is, say what you want about this guy, but everybody thinks that he could be all of the bad parts of Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is the way that he throws the ball on the run. A lot of his big touchdowns, a lot of the things that he scored, I think it was like 70% of his touchdowns were on the run.
Yep.
And more than half of those were to wide open wide receivers.
And you have to look at the competition. He played one top 25 team, and they got smoked.
And they lost.
Yeah,
and they lost.
Like, it wasn't a good game for him.
It was tough. It was really tough for them. So I just think it's going to be a Mitch Trubisky-sized mistake. It's going to set the back about 10 years. But now we're going on to the number 3 pick.
The Miami Dolphins, who have gotten a nice little pick here at number 3.
Yeah, they got that pick from Houston.
Yep.
Great. I think that there are a few ways that this can go down, I think. Mm-hmm. Especially because Houston doesn't have that first round pick.
Yep.
I think there's a possibility, there is a very high chance that we could be seeing a trade back. Not a trade back, but a trade back to Houston.
Yep. For
Deshaun Watson in the form of Tua and a few other picks they have. But in the sense to say, let's say they don't trade.
Yeah, let's say no outside players are traded for these picks.
No outside, nothing crazy like that. I think that there is a strong possibility for 2 players in my mind. Mm-hmm. One of them being Penei Sewell.
Yep.
And the other one being Devonta Smith. Because if they want to ride with Tua,
give him one of his weapons.
They want to give him a weapon. But if you want to protect Tua, you want to take the best offensive lineman that we've seen in a very long time. But I think with what they're going to do, they're going to draft Devonta Smith. Mm-hmm. They're going to take him at number 3.
Okay.
And I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Devonta Smith. I think that he might have an issue. I think he might not get into like a full form. He could make like a Kevin Durant kind of thing. But
yeah. The thing with the Dolphins too, you have to think about is, even if Tua is not the guy, right? You can have a nice tackle in Penei Sewell, right? Somebody that's going to protect your quarterback. But let's say Tua isn't the guy. Would you rather have a good wide receiver core and good weapons to attract a future quarterback, or if you decide to draft one and build around that isn't Tua? So I think they need weapons, because look, they have Parker, they have Preston Williams, who I think is good. They have Mike Gesicki, who I think is a good target. And there are also talks that they might go after Pat Freiermuth in the second round. If he slips to the second round, they might be going after him with their second round to add another tight end there. So I think that it makes the most sense for them to get a wide receiver. And I think honestly they could go Sewell, but the thing is like they got to give Tua a shot. And the only way you're going to know if Tua is good is if you give him elite weapons.
Give him a few more weapons.
Yeah, if you give him elite weapons and you get him a running back, which they'll probably get at pick 18, if you give him that, or you sign somebody a free agency and he still doesn't pan out, then at least like, all right, we have the pieces, we just need the quarterback. Whereas it's different where you're like, we don't really have the pieces, we have a good offensive line, and we don't have a quarterback. Like, just take the surefire skill player. Number 4, we've got the Atlanta Falcons. Now, I think they could go 2 spots here, and I think both of them are actually kind of not really out of left field, But I think actually there's really three things I could see here. So I could see them going Justin Fields at number 4, grabbing a quarterback, getting rid of Matt Ryan, or at least having him be behind Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
I could see them going after Jamar Chase and eventually Julio's replacement. Wouldn't hurt to have Julio train one of the best wide receivers in the draft. And then, if Julio gets older, doesn't be like having Julio, Jamar Chase, and Calvin Ridley would be a really nice wide receiver core, even for Matt Ryan. So if they think Matt Ryan's got a couple of years left in him, they want to give him some more weapons, load up on the defense, right? And then another thing could be Kyle Pitts, who is one of the best offensive talents in the draft. They do need a tight end, right? They have Hayden Hurst, but you need a second one in that offense. So it wouldn't hurt to go there, but I think ultimately what this team is going to do is I think that they are going to be smart, and I think they're going to go Jamar Chase at number 4 overall.
That's not bad at all. I could definitely see that happening. And then also in a personal thought, opinion, I think that could spell a big drop for both Fields and Lance, depending how whatever teams need, depending on whatever teams are going to look at it in that way. But I can completely see Jamar Chase going in the top 4, even the top 7, as he should in the first place, because personally he is the best receiver in this draft.
He is, yes.
It's, you have Devonta Smith, but you also have Jamar Chase, who is everything good about Devonta Smith without a little bit of speed, but size. So what he lacks in the Devonta Smith speed, he has in height, weight, and strength.
Something for longevity in the league, too.
Exactly.
And I think especially if you have Julio, who has shown...
essentially the same player.
Right, but has
also
shown... has also shown to Calvin Ridley, like... You've seen it. Julio has come out of Calvin Ridley, right? Like, trained that next generation. Working with him helps. So the same thing could be said for Jamar Chase, right? And I think that the Falcons have a good team. They have a lot of underrated talent on that defense. If they can add another weapon, like, why not? If you think Matt Ryan's still the guy, right? What is he, 33, something like that? Yeah. He might be, I don't know. He might be around, like, mid-30s.
I'll do an age check. Hold on.
Yeah, do an age check, because if you think Matt Ryan's got about
35.
Yeah, 35. So if you think he's got about, like, 3 good years left, because obviously not everybody's Tom Brady, and maybe 2 more, like, just kind of packing it in years, maybe it doesn't make sense to go after someone like Justin Fields, who you're going to want to get on the field right away if he's the 4th overall pick. Because if you think Matt Ryan's got 3 years, you're not going to sit Justin Fields on the bench for 3 years, right? Like, you're not going to keep that talent there for 3 years, right? It worked with Jimmy G. It worked with, like, guys like Aaron Rodgers because they were later first-round picks, second-round picks, right? They weren't high lottery picks, which if you have a pick there, you need to get a game changer that's going to come onto the field right away, and I think it makes the most sense there. So Brady, we got the Cincinnati Bengals here.
The Cincinnati Bengals. See, if you were gonna, so there were 2 ways that I could have went about this, and you took one of them from me.
Yeah, that was the same thing I was gonna say. If I was picking 5, it was 4 and 5 are literally just dependent on each other. Yeah.
Exactly. It's very dependent on each other.
Yep.
So, if in my reality sense, I was going to say Jamar Chase.
Yes.
For them. But since now he's gone, he's going to be living in Atlanta for a few years, at least 4 years. I got to go with the easy one here. You have to protect your asset. We said it on the podcast, like about week 3.
Yep.
Joe Burrow
said he's going to get hurt.
Getting hit like this. He's going to get hurt.
And have a short
and it's going to be bad. And what happened?
Got hurt really bad.
And it was bad.
Yeah.
So what they have to do now is they have to bolster them. They have to bolster that line. They got to beef that line. They have money. You got to go out. You got to go after people. You have to get Penei Sewell at number 5 to protect him. Potentially the best offensive lineman talent we've seen since, why am I blanking on his name? What the hell? Quentin Nelson. Quentin Nelson from a few years ago. And then before that, you know what I mean? It's like those 2 names we're going to hear for a very long time in the NFL about offensive linemen. And I just think that Penei Sewell is the real deal. He has been at Oregon, and he's going to translate very well into the big boy offense.
I agree, and that is why I am I would say that is a lock as well. I mean, like, you'd be stupid you just picked a guy first overall. You'd be idiotic to not draft with your next highest draft pick an offensive player. I mean, an offensive lineman, and the best one at that. Like, you'd be insane. And the only possible way that would make sense is if Jamar Chase was on the board and you wanted to give Joe Burrow his number 1 target from when they went off together. So at number 6, this is a little bit tricky now that Carson Wentz has actually just been traded. The Eagles could go a lot of different ways. It looks like they want to spend a little bit more time on Jalen Hurts. I think that they want to give him some development. So I could see one of two things happening here. One of them being that they're going to draft Jalen Waddle, some of that connection, bring him to the Eagles. But what I think is going to happen here is I'm actually going to have this team trade back. We can't do it now because we're not paying for premium. So I'm just, we're not doing that. But what I'm going to say is essentially I'm going to pick based on if nobody can trade, right? I completely forgot. I didn't mention that in the beginning. We can't trade. I said we could, and I forgot.
Yeah. So
however,
pick off of
we're going to pick off if there was no trades. But if they were to trade, I could see this being a pick that the Patriots actually move up to, seeing as how, based on how this draft has gone so far. Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson are the 2 quarterbacks off. If Bill Belichick really loves Justin Fields and he's sitting there at 6, and you know that the only possible team that would be taking a quarterback between you and 15 could probably be, I would say, Minnesota's an option. San Francisco could be an option. And Carolina. Right? So if those are the only teams that are set on that, I would move up. But I think what's going to end up going to happen is Jalen Waddle is going to make his way number 6 to the Philadelphia Eagles and giving them there. So I'm going to be doing the Detroit Lions yet again.
But before we move on to the Lions, I just want to put on one thought here. I think Jalen Waddle could go in that spot.
Yeah.
Then another person who I think could make an absolute jump, depending on however his pro day goes or whatever they look at, because they might look at Waddle's injury and say we might not want to deal with someone with a nagging injury. They could very much well take Kyle Pitts there, or they can make the jump, the first major leap of this draft, and take Rashad Bateman out of Minnesota. But I can agree with Jalen Waddle there.
Well, it's funny you say that because my next pick is actually that big jump for Rashad Bateman because this Lions team, you just brought in Jared Goff, right? You just traded away Matthew Stafford. You got a bunch of picks, for in the future and everything like that. But Rashad Bateman is the next best wide receiver available. You just saw 3 go off the board. Bateman from Minnesota is going to be a good option because you have Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones Jr. both going and leaving this team most likely. I would hope that they can maybe re-sign someone like Marvin Jones. I think Kenny Galladay's gone, but it's very clear that they have no offensive talent anymore. When you lost Matt Stafford and you're going to lose your 2 best wide receivers, you're going to have to reach, and I think Rashad Bateman goes number 7 overall in this because of that.
Yeah. All right, so, okay, I'm confused now. Oh, wait, no. So am I going to do 2 in a row now?
No. So I go back to 8. And then it goes back to normal, and then you pick 13, 14, because are you the even or am I the even?
You were the even.
So you pick 12 and 13. So we alternate.
Okay, that does make sense.
And then you pick 11, 12, 13.
Because I'm going to do 11, 12, 13. Thank you. There we go.
Yeah.
So we're figuring it out as we go, guys. Just remember that. As you're watching this right now, we're figuring it out as we're going. So
I will do number 8 as well. And I'm going to make this really quick because we're only at 8 overall. And I'm just going to say it right here. It's going to be Justin Fields. They need a quarterback, and he is a top quarterback that should have went a lot sooner. A lot of these teams passed on him. The Panthers will not be passing on Justin Fields in Carolina.
I agree. Next up, we have the Denver Broncos there now on the clock. They have a lot to address on that team. Do I think that quarterback is going to be that thing addressed in the draft? Maybe later. They're not going to address it this soon.
Yeah.
Trey Lance is going to continue to take his dive right now in the quarterback spots. But as of right now, one big thing that they're looking at is you look at Bradley Chubb, right? And you look at Von Miller. They're both getting hurt. Bradley Chubb got hurt his rookie year. Von Miller got hurt last year. That's a big problem that they're facing right now. But then another big problem that they have here is the fact that They just lost their cornerback coach. They lost their main defensive mind on the cornerback, so they might even have to go after someone there. So I think if they're going to go
Defense
for the
heavy
next
for them
possible
right
thing,
now.
defense heavy is going to be their main right now. So in between, I'm thinking they're either going to take, excuse me, they're either going to be taking Patrick Surtain or they're going to be taking Kwity Paye off the edge. But in reality, they will be going after Patrick Surtain. They do need that guy that can lock it down for them. Justin Simmons definitely proved a lot last year for that team, that he can be a great coverage guy. So if you give them someone else and potentially the best coverage guy in the draft, that's going to help them tenfold on their defense, which they can win games off of. We've seen that. When everybody's healthy, that defense meshes. So, Patrick Surtain.
I like it. The next pick is the Cowboys, and I think that
Cowboys.
They could go with Kyle Pitts here, right? They could draft someone like that, but it's really going to come down to the 3 offensive tackles that are kind of available right now around this. You got Rashawn Slater, you have Samuel Cosmi, and then you have Christian D'Arisaw. I'm going with Cosmi from Texas. I just think he's a bigger guy. He's from Texas, right? So, like, obviously, like, you know, Jerry Jones, you know, he's gonna want players that come from those programs, like, in those areas that know how to play. It's a winning program. You're looking at Northwestern and Virginia Tech. I think Texas as an offensive tackle, and he's just a bigger guy. I think he's
a bigger guy, and he's a slimmer guy too.
Yeah,
that's a huge.
And you
plus.
need to protect Dak. So
Jerry likes that. You got to protect Dak if Dak's going to come back. Maybe we'll get to that in another episode.
We will. We
so
definitely
you're saying Cosmi?
Yep, 100%. He's going right there to Dallas.
Now I get the next 3.
Yep, you get the next 3.
On my way. Here we go. So another team that needs to potentially address quarterback at some point. They're not going to do it this early. There's no need to do it.
Too many needs.
I think at this point, you should be focusing on protecting who you have. But
given
the Giants, they're not the brightest bulbs in the box. They're going to go after something, and that something is taking Kyle Pitts there. They have Evan Ingram, right?
Yep.
But just adding a player like Pitts, they can shift him to a wide receiver. They can move him to other places. He's athletic enough to do these things that we can count him on their wide receiver side of things. So I think at 11, Kyle Pitts is finally going to be taken off the board. Another potential idea I have for them is addressing their cornerback position. They could be going for Caleb Fairley, but I'm going to say they take Kyle Pitts at 11.
I also agree with Kyle Pitts here, and the reason I kind of say that is, look, you need wideouts, right? We look at their team needs, right? But we know from the eyeballs, they need wideouts, they need tight ends, and they need running backs outside of Saquon, right? Yes. They need some help outside. So they need weapons on offense, right? So if they can add some, right, to really give Daniel Jones a chance, I think they'll be good. Their offensive line is really not that bad.
It's not terrible. It's really not terrible. So they played well
Kyle
last
Pitts
year.
Makes sense. You take the best available skill position,
basically
wide receiver, but you take the best available there.
Exactly. So now we're going over to San Fran. Oh man, this one's tough. Because you look at the way that things have been going for them as a team, and you see how everybody's been getting injured, and a lot of that has been reliant on the fact that Jimmy G physically isn't getting it done in this system.
I think they're moving on from him.
I think they're going to move on from Jimmy G. They could even trade this pick to even try to move somebody, but again, we're not doing trades. We're just going off of what we think and what the team thinks.
Trade this pick and Jimmy G to the Patriots for 15 and like a 4th.
I wouldn't hate it. I mean, I wouldn't hate it.
Swap it.
Get him back. But I'm going to say that the wait is over. Trey Lance is going number 12 to the San Francisco 49ers to maybe even give Garoppolo a competition. If they don't trade the pick, they need to do something. They need to address their defensive backfield. We understand that. They need to address a lot of things that are happening along with their offensive line. A lot of people getting hurt. They're also the reason a lot of the running backs are getting hurt. But then again, if you have a quarterback that isn't meshing, a quarterback that can't throw the ball, that's why we saw them go through 6 or 7 running backs last year. So I'm saying the smartest thing for them to do is take Trey Lance at 12 and move on from there. now, boys.
Oh boy, we know where this is going.
We've been waiting for your Los Angeles Chargers. Last year, actually, we talk about how bad the Cincinnati Bengals were on the offensive line, but in the reality of things,
Even worse.
The Chargers were at the bottom. They were number 32. Things that I would love for them to do, I'd love for them to go after Micah.
Yeah.
Because that is they need an interior linebacker. But I feel like when Micah comes into the league, he's not going to be playing that position as much.
No.
I feel like he's going to kind of be like a Jadeveon Clowney, just not as big. He's going to be able to move all around the line with his athleticism. But at
Jamie
the moment,
Collins role.
Exactly. Essentially, at the moment, I think that sadly, Rashawn Slater might fall a little bit.
Yep.
So with that being said, off of the season that Virginia Tech had, they were pretty successful. As for Northwestern, can't knock Northwestern, but I'm saying that from Virginia Tech, the LA Chargers will be selecting Christian Darrisaw. They will be getting someone to bolster that line and give Justin Herbert a chance. Because what we saw is when you give Herbert a chance, he can make things happen. They lost all of their games except for, I think, two of them by just one possession. So think about it that way. If you give them that extra play, you give him that extra second, and you see what he can do, I think the Chargers could be a very scary, successful team. And I'm telling you right now, I don't care who you are, Patrick Mahomes. I know you're listening. Pat. And I'm going to call you Pat. We're coming. And we're not stopping. Bolt up. Bolt gang, don't bang. You're scared. Next up, Cam.
So we got the Vikings here, and they need some help on their interior line. They need some help out on their front seven. They need some safety help, right? They're mostly defense for this draft, right? Their offense is not that bad. I mean, you have one of the best running backs in the league. Kirk Cousins is a serviceable quarterback for now. And you got some good wide receiver options. And Kyle Rudolph is pretty good still. You know, like, he's not terrible. It's not a bad option to have on that offense.
You know?
So they don't need running backs, right? We know that. They don't need wideouts. They don't need anything really offense except offensive line. But they also don't really necessarily need a tackle right now. So the pick that I am going is with Kwity Paye from Michigan. Letting that, I know that they would love to get an inside defensive lineman, but just at this point in the draft, how far Paye has dropped at 14, which is basically where he's ranked out of all players. But the fact that teams that needed him earlier in the draft haven't, and that he's sitting there, I think this makes the most sense for them, is to just get an edge rusher that can set the play and make sure that team and that tempo is kept up. So I think they're going to go with Kwity Paye there. They could have went with Micah, but I don't think Micah's a fit right there at that point.
I agree with that. I really do.
All right, Brady, next up, the Patriots for you.
So, So I'm thinking if we're looking at the Patriots, we're looking at everything that they need, everything that they've been going after. We definitely need quarterback help, which we might have to go for in free agency. Hopefully
or
we go
trade.
after it. Or trade or anything. Literally anything.
But
please,
this is my thing, is if Cam Newton does come back, right, with a full offseason, do you think that Bill Belichick's plan right now, though, is to say Cam's coming back, we're building this team around him for the next couple years, there's no quarterback that I like in this draft? Because that people always forget that too. Like, there could be players in this draft that, like, we're just, besides really Trevor Lawrence, everybody else is a question mark. And if Bill doesn't like any of them or think that they would work out, like, if it's not a surefire, like, this is the guy, we don't have that high of a pick. So it's like, you're in the middle of the draft, like, you need to make sure you get like an electric, like, player here. So if I'm the Patriots, let's assume right now, let's assume this team is built around Cam Newton coming back. Let's just assume. We could talk about Mariota. We could talk about Deshaun Watson. We could talk about Mitch Trubisky, Jimmy G, Jared Stidham getting the start. Like, we could talk about any of that. Let's just assume it's Cam Newton for this pick.
Okay, so if we're just gonna assume that Cam's coming back and we're just going after it, I think that the team does have a lot to address. I think that all of the better and or best wide receivers are off the board. And if we're going into this saying that he's not the guy, if we're saying that Bill doesn't like anybody this early, then I don't know about going after Mac Jones. Maybe if we can wait and get
That's what I'm
Trask,
saying.
it's a possibility. So I think right now you need to go with who I think is the best player on the board. And the best player on the board in free agency, where we're going to lose Rex Burkhead, where we might be losing James White.
Yep.
You need to make a splash. And that splash is going to be another man from Alabama, Najee Harris, to the New England Patriots at number 15. Again, we're saying they could trade. That's another thing. We're not trading.
Yeah.
We're taking it.
We're not doing
addressing
trades.
needs, and a need right now is we might lose James White. We might lose Burkhead. If Damian Harris is your guy, we want somebody that's going to
Sony
catch the ball.
Sony Michel could also get flipped in the offseason for like a 4th round pick, like
That's
to
what
some
I'm saying.
team.
We don't know what's going to happen here. So if we want to take initiative and we want to take that first step, if Bill doesn't like the guys that are this early in the draft and can go after someone later, you got to take Harris or you have to take Micah. But I'm saying that
I would say Micah too, because that's
exactly.
a big hole. That front seven.
Exactly. But think about they're getting Hightower back. I guess bringing in Micah could be very helpful. But for my idea, I am saying to take Najee.
Okay. So that would be your pick. That's kind of what actually kind of helps me for this next selection here. Was I was going to go with one or two people, and you actually made this choice for me. So at number 16, Travis Etienne is going to the Cardinals. At 16,
yes, sir.
They need a running back. They just need some help for Kyler, and I think they need an actual 3-down running back, and I think there is some potential there with Travis, so I think they could really get a good player there. And I think it's a good fit, to be honest. And that system with that team, that style of offense, I think could really work out for him there.
Because we saw the option work a lot in Clemson.
Yep.
And they like to run it there. If they're not completely done with handsome head coach they have right now.
Handsome man.
He's just a handsome man. Just remember that, kids.
Yep.
If you're watching this, if you're attractive, you can get anywhere in life. Because he's damn bad head coach. So just remember that. If you're a good-looking person, you have a shot. If you're me and Cam, you don't. Wait a minute. Did I just got a Schefter alert? I think I just got a Schefter alert, Cam. What did we get? Oh, just kidding. Something else. Never mind. Nothing about football.
Okay, I just went to look at my phone.
So, all right, here we go.
So we got the fucking, I almost said Oakland Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders here. They need some defense help really bad.
Billy Russo. You need some help, my friend. They need defensive help everywhere. And at that point, you got to go with Micah. He's going to be wearing
Don't trade him to the Bears
at this point. Don't get rid of this guy. He's going to be special. Just him dropping this far has nothing to do with him
his skill, yeah.
in our ideas, but it has to do with the fact of what teams needed. And at the time, they needed a little bit more than what he was. But at this moment, again, you could put him anywhere on the field and he could be successful. Hell, he can even play safety because he did it in college a few times. They're taking Micah Parsons.
Okay. At the next pick here, I would love for them to get a running back here, but I think it's honestly too early for Javonte Williams to go. I think I'm just going to go Rashawn Slater here. I think I could say they could add to their linebacking core. They could go after J.C. Horn, right? Because they do need a little bit of secondary help. Like
they could be going after Koromoa.
They have good secondary, but it wouldn't hurt to take somebody here.
No.
Right, and they could go after Zavine Collins. Like they can go after these guys, but I think Rashawn Slater makes the most sense. You just got this is the best of both worlds, right? You get that wide receiver option at number 3. And then going back to 18, you still were able to protect him and do both. So I think this is what they have to do, because even if Tua is not the guy, you want to have a good offense. They have a great defense, a defensive-minded coach, right? So I think Miami, with these picks, if they turn out to be really good, could have an incredible year if Tua is who Tua used to be. So I'm going Rashawn Slater here at number 18.
I agree with that. I can see that. I can see that happening. He's finally going to go. Like I said, it has nothing to do with his talent. He is talented. I just feel like the other guys that were there in between him are a little bit better. But here we have big addressing to happen.
Yep.
What's going to happen? Like in that reality sense of if they're going to bring back, if Patriots going to bring back Cam Newton, is Washington going to go after Cam Newton? Are they going to keep Alex Smith?
Well, they just signed Heineke to an extension.
Exactly, they signed Heineke to an extension, but do we know if Heineke is going to be the guy? And if he's going to be the guy, are they going to protect him? I think what they're going to do here is at number 19, you got to be smart. You got to take Mac Jones. He's there. I mean, there's really no other place where he would have went other than that at this point. And if they're not going to take, because if they have to look into, like Alex Smith getting hurt, it happened all year. Even when he came back, it's amazing.
I really like that fit with Mac Jones.
Comeback player of the lifetime.
Yep.
He almost died, and you got to give the guy respect. But at some point, he's gonna have to hang it up just due to just pain in general. And I think Taylor Heineke is great. A lot of my friends started calling him Random Dude. I like that name. I think we should make some Taylor Heineke Random Dude merch. Number 7,
crack
random
open
guy.
a Heineke.
Yeah, put Random Dude on the back of a jersey because that's exactly
put his face on a Heineken bottle. Crack open a Heineke.
Exactly, it's perfect. Everything just writes itself. I love you, Taylor Heineke. But that being said, Mac Jones is the best available person for them.
I really like that fit too.
I do too. I like the idea. They have some young wide receivers. They have, young running backs. Offensive line is very impressionable because again, they were all young. But they can do something with that team. You know what I mean? The defense was great. The defense was phenomenal. The defense willed them to the playoffs.
Yep.
So if they can figure something out with their offense, if their line can protect them, if they can, whoever is playing in that quarterback position, watch out for Washington.
Awesome. So with the Bears, assuming that they get rid of Mitch Trubisky, they still have Foles, but whatever, right? They still need to protect their quarterbacks. Whoever they bring in, they have a terrible offensive line, so I'm going with Elijah Vera-Tucker here from USC, interior offensive lineman. There's no good tackles really left besides Alex Leatherwood if you really want to go after him, but I think you could honestly get him in the second round. So I'm just going to go with the best interior offensive lineman. They need that help, and they're going to go with him. And he's the best interior offensive lineman in the entire draft, so it doesn't hurt.
Could be. I agree. I agree with that. I can see that happening.
Taking him wouldn't hurt.
Welcome to the Colts.
Oh, yeah. Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz is now on the Colts, and that is going to be great. They have a good offensive line. They could add more to it to kind of protect them, but I don't think they're going to do that. I think finally one of the 2 and 3 cornerbacks are going to be going around here to help them defensively.
Yep.
I can see J.C. Horn getting drafted here. I think in the reality sense, Caleb Fairley is phenomenal.
Yep.
But they're going to take the fact that J.C. Horn played in a lot tougher conditions.
Yep.
He played a full SEC schedule.
Some mock drafts even have J.C. Horn going to New England at 15 to replace Gilmore.
Too. Exactly. If they want to trade Gilmore, you can get J.C. Horn. They can do that. But again, we're living in the fast lane.
Yep.
We're taking head-on picks, no trades. You know the vibe.
Yep.
J.C. Horn.
To the Colts.
To the Colts.
So this one, for me, the Tennessee Titans, this is a little interesting for me. We know that they need edge. And a player that I think has fallen very, very far is Greg Rousseau. And I think that they're going to go with Greg Rousseau here from Miami. They need an edge rusher. They need front 7 help in general. They cannot rush the passer at all. They're having issues. They could also go Caleb Fairley here because they are getting kind of old in that secondary.
It's a good secondary, but it's an aging secondary.
Right, but I think the guys that you have there on that team are actually late round picks themselves. So I think you can replace them later in the draft. And I think Greg Rousseau here is a talent that you could have. I would like to see Zavine Collins here as well, but they need more they need more defensive line help than anything. So I'm going to go Greg Rousseau here at 22.
I agree with that. I could definitely see that happening. So now we're making our way over back to the New York Jets. They got this pick in a trade, so they're owning this here. The Jets are just... Robert Saleh is going to go in there and try to do everything that he physically can to turn this organization around. I think if you're going to get a guy to do it, it was going to be him.
Yep.
I think he was one of, if not the best coaching hire in the entire end game here.
Yeah.
So I think that in his mind, he wants to go defensive.
Yep.
And with that being said, you got to go with Caleb Fairley.
Yep.
Because he is the next best thing on the board. He is a strong cornerback. Again, just from the back end of J.C. Horn, it has nothing to do with his talent. I think they're just going to look at it and say, he played a little bit of a tougher schedule. He's a little bit of a harder worker out of that. So they're going to take Caleb Fairley at 23. The Jets are going to try to go for a complete culture change. And I would actually love to see that. Even though being a Patriots fan, I would love to see Robert Saleh walk in there and be like, this is going to be a respected team again. And I actually want to see that.
Because at the end of the day, I get we shit on it, but it makes, when you have 4 organizations in your division, look at the NFC North, right? When you have 4 respected organizations and with legacies, it means more when you're winning. There's better rivalries. The games mean more. I'm sick of playing crappy Dolphins, Bills, and Jets teams all these years. You want the competition, right? Because those are your division rivals. It makes your schedule a lot more fun. They're closer games. They're more important games. So I kind of I agree with you here. So right here, I have the Steelers going in 1 or 2 places because Mac Jones went 19th. If he slid any further, that would be my pick right here to replace Big Ben. But I think to offset the loss of Pouncey, you're going to have to go here. I know he's not a center, but Alex Leatherwood, the best offensive tackle available. You need an offensive tackle in general, but to have him there can help slide some of those guys that are, teetering on the outside that shouldn't be there, kind of slide them inside and give a little bit more help. But anyways, just having a tackle that's going to be there to help you is really what this team needs.
And another thing they could have done there is I could definitely see Leatherwood, but then again, to replace that center mind, you could have gone after Landon Dickerson, another Alabama guy. This is going to be a very predominant
Alabama draft.
Yeah, it's going to be a very predominant Alabama line draft. We're going to see a lot of those guys that are going to be playing in the league for hopefully a very long time coming out of there. And they always do. They're always mopped up with the knee braces. They're always ready.
Right.
They're always staying up. It's very fortunate that Landon Dickerson didn't sustain a massive injury before the draft because he got hurt, but it wasn't bad, so that's amazing. It was just thank the Lord, because he is going to be such an interesting player in the league. He's going to be what am I going to say here? He is going to be I don't know why I always forget Quentin Nelson's name. Why do I always forget Quentin Nelson's name? He's right there. But I think he can be another Quentin Nelson guy. And with that being said,
the talent's there, definitely.
The talent's there. The talent's where it needs to be. And they need to protect Trevor Lawrence.
Yep.
And to protect Trevor Lawrence, you are going to take Landon Dickerson. They are jumping for him at the center because he's fast enough, he's quick enough. You can move him to the tackle. You can move him to the guard. I could see back-to-back Alabama linemen being picked here. In a lot of mock drafts, he's projected second round, early second round, end of first round. But I could definitely see if there's any team that's going to make the stab for him, it's going to be Jacksonville, because he is so intricate that he can play in so many different spots.
So I'm going Acai here, edge. It makes a lot of sense for the Browns. They need somebody to go on the other side of Myles Garrett. And their defense, man, even with the talent they have there, needs a lot of help. Their secondary is really not that bad. They could use a cornerback here, but you're going to get Asante Samuel Jr., which would be awesome, for the name, but he's not ready for the first round pick. I don't think he's going to be that. I think they go right here with the big man from Texas.
I agree with that one. And now this is an interesting one, because the Ravens The Ravens can go in literally any direction because that's what they've done in general.
They just draft whoever's there, like whoever's the best player available. They don't really put any thought into it.
Exactly, and it's just one of those things where it's like a lot of the time it can fit some need.
Yep.
But I just feel like when they drafted Hollywood Brown, it was a weird pick. When they drafted Lamar Jackson, it was a great pick. And now, then you look at it and you're like, wow, they kind of jumped for that one a little bit. Of course, it ended up working out.
Yeah.
But they're just going after that.
They're going after the guy they like. They don't care where he's projected or who else they could get. They're like, who are the guys we like? Let's go after them.
Yeah. But with that being said, I just really don't know. You know what I mean? Like, looking at everything that's there, I think they're going to take Zaven Collins from Tulsa, or they're going to go with Owusu Kamara, however you say it, Kamara. I'm going to go with Kamara. I think they're going to take him because, you know, he's 6'2", 216. He can move around the line. He can go everywhere you need him to be. They're going to take him there because they're weird and they don't know how to draft in the right spaces, so they're going to take him.
I agree with you there. So the next thing for the Saints, this is difficult. I mean, Drew Brees has not officially said he is retiring. If he does, you have Jameis Winston. You have some type of young talent there, right? You have Michael Thomas, but you don't, you know, he looks like he wants to be out, you know, and if Drew Brees goes, I would expect,
boy.
Yeah, I would expect Michael Thomas to be traded if Drew Brees is gone. And what I'm actually going to go here with is Kadarius Toney at this spot, which is a little bit of a jump. But I think you take him over Terrence Marshall because he has the build and makeup of a Tyreek Hill type player. Very slippery, gets yards after the catch. It looks like that's the new wave of wide receivers. Anyway, you look at like Brandon Ayuk, you look at some of those players, look at the San Francisco 49ers in general. A lot of wide receivers in today's day and age where it's trending, there is a little bit of a need for somebody that's quick, that can, you know, catch the ball and get inside the numbers and, you know, make some people miss. And I think Kadarius Toney is not as fast, but I think that he does have the kind of acceleration and quickness that we see from players like Tyreek Hill. And you look at even Sammy Watkins when he's fully healthy, like similar to players like that. And I think that he's not really necessarily a deep threat, but it is something that if you're going to have a quarterback like Jameis Winston, if you're going to have to replace Michael Thomas eventually, it wouldn't hurt to get someone like that. And hey, if Michael Thomas stays, it's going to make Kadarius Toney being that number 2, because I think he would immediately become the number 2. I think having him there, you would see that team is actually going to be playing a lot better because you don't have to cover just one guy, especially with Kamara in the backfield.
Yeah, I agree with that. The wonderful case of the Green Bay Packers. Now, they're going to do it again.
Yep.
They're not going to help Aaron Rodgers at all.
Kyle Trask.
Yeah, right. They're gonna take another. Imagine they take another quarterback.
Oh my God.
They're not gonna give him immediate help.
Yep.
Because, you know, what are you gonna do with that? But I really am scared of the fact that they're not gonna take a wide receiver. They might take a tackle because of injuries. They might take an interior lineman. I don't know. But I think for the sense of the memes, they are going to take Terrence Marshall Jr. They're gonna help him. They gotta help at some point, right? Yeah. They have to give him the best available wide receiver on the board. They have to do it. Yeah. They have to. Like, they physically can't not. But if they do, then if I was Aaron Rodgers, I would immediately request a trade. I would drink, because he said he drank 4 fingers of tequila after that was happened, and he has some big fingers. They showed it. It's like, oh, you know, it's a finger. So it's like you take 2 fingers like that, and that's a drink. But I do 4 fingers. And Pat McAfee was like, what? He goes, that's a whole glass. And he's like, and? So I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to drink 8 fingers of tequila once that all happens. But they're going to take Terrence Marshall. They have to.
Yeah.
You know, he's LSU guy. He's good. He's strong. He's fast. Like, they just can't. They can't not, okay? Do it, please, Matt LaFleur. For the love of God, just do it.
So there's a couple of picks here for the Bills that makes a lot of sense. They have a good defense, but they could use additional help there. They could also take a wide receiver. Running back doesn't look that hard. I don't think Javonte Williams is that good, to be honest. I don't think there's really any good running backs outside of Najee Harris.
Yeah.
And Etienne, really, So the guys I have here, the three at the top of the board right now, is Zaven Collins, Jalen Phillips, and Nick Bolton. I think they can go anywhere, but for the sole fact that I think that they really want to lock down that interior linebacker spot, is they're going to go with Collins from Tulsa. He's the best linebacker on the board. He should have actually went a little bit sooner to some of these other teams that are out there. But I have him going to the Bills here. I think it makes the most sense. It's a perfect fit. I think it would be great to get Jalen Phillips there. Being from Miami, being that edge rusher, that kind of, offset of Greg Rousseau, would be able to work well with their other veterans. But I think that they're just going to make the safe bet here, and they're going to go with a linebacker at 30.
Yeah, and then kind of looking into Zaven Collins a little bit more, if you read up on him. Tulsa was a big scheme where you moved around a lot,
and that's just what they do.
And that's exactly what the Bills are. That's exactly what the Bills do. They try to trick you. McDermott's a wonderful defensive mind. He did a hell of a job planning this team. He definitely deserved Coach of the Year that he didn't get. But yeah, I agree with Zaven Collins at 30. And now we're going over to everybody's least favorite team on the planet because Tom Brady beat them, and I'm so happy about it.
We called it. I think I almost had a perfect playoffs except for the Ravens game this year.
Yeah, I picked the Bears. I picked the Bears, so I don't want to talk about it.
That's okay. We won't talk about it.
So, the problem with the Chiefs, it was very evident. Very evident. That offensive line, man.
No depth either.
No depth. But the problem, again, was the team was phenomenal all year long, even without offensive line, because they didn't really have it in the first place.
Yeah.
2 of their starting linemen opted out. One of them to go be a frontline worker during COVID, so hats off to him. That's absolutely amazing.
Very respectable. Yep.
Exactly. But I think that they should and they will go after some kind of lineman help. That being said, a lot of the problems came from the interior where they were just busting right through.
Yep.
So I think they might have to take a jump, and you're going to take Wyatt Davis from Ohio State. He's sitting at 6'4", 310. He does have a little bit of speed to him. They need someone that's going to have a heavy rush attack, and that's what they could definitely try to transition into with Hilaire. Even though you have Patrick Mahomes, you still should be able to run the ball, and that's something they weren't able to do because they lost that lead, and they had to throw from behind the entire time. But I think once they can kind of settle in, I think Wyatt Davis is the perfect person there. Ohio State had a wonderful year blocking for Fields, and I think a team is going to get him and put a lot of trust into him. And now, Cam, to you, the final pick, the New England Buccaneers.
Yeah, so they can go in a couple of positions here again. For the memes, I would love for them to get Asante Samuel Jr. so that people can be like, oh, Tom Brady played with Asante Samuel Sr. and now he's playing with his son. But they could probably get him in the second round or whatever.
Just like Winfield, it's
Antoine
Winfield Sr. picked him off when he played on the Vikings.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all
right, we get it.
We get it. He's old.
And he's still better than you.
But I'm going to go here with their front seven played incredible. But they're not getting any younger. They have good young linebackers. They have good young secondary. They do need to add some youth in that defensive front seven because think of this, they have to start planning for post Tom Brady when he does end up leaving to go to a new team or retires or whatever. They need some young talent here because a lot of people, it's the old effect. Everybody, it's like the Lakers, right? It's like the Lakers or the Patriots in their championship runs. Everybody that's at the end of their career is hopping on the bandwagon if they got some talent left because they want to win a ring. And I think that's what you see with JPP, Ndamukong Suh, right? You're going to see some of those guys come to this team, maybe even get someone like Ryan Kerrigan, whoever, those players coming to that team. But I think they're going to go here at number 32 to round off the first round, to end the first round, and to round up our show here is Christian Barmore from Alabama, the interior defensive lineman.
I
He just
like
makes
that.
the most sense there. He's got a lot of talent. He's the best interior defensive lineman in the draft. And if you can get him at 32, that's an excellent pick. And I think that could be great to learn from Ndamukong Suh. Not as a leader. You're not going to learn much from Ndamukong Suh as a leader. But, yeah, you're going to learn how to play the game of football from him at least.
I like that. I think one big thing that we're going to see next year with this Buccaneers team is they are going to be retaining the majority of their defense.
Yep.
But that being said, again, like you said, they're not getting any younger.
Mm-hmm.
So we could see next year, if they go back-to-back and win another Super Bowl, Sue, JPP immediately retire.
Yep.
And then you have a hole to fill. So if you get somebody to fill that hole in,
That's what the Patriots
Barrymore,
did all these years. Is they always made sure, even people would always call them crazy for drafting players at certain rounds, and they're like, look, always have that backup plan because it's the NFL. People don't play for 15, 20 years. Like in NBA or MLB or even NHL. Like the NFL, the average career of a player is like 4 years, but the average career for like a good solid player is probably about 10, and like even that's like low. There's a lot of players that retire in their early 30s.
Exactly.
That stop playing, and I think that you can't be safe with that. So this has been an incredible episode. Let us know if you want us to do a part 2 where we'll basically do day 2.
Exactly. We'll go after day 2, which would be 2, 3, 4.
No, just 2 and 3.
2 and 3. Okay.
And then day 3 would be 4 through 7. So if
that
you want to
fun.
see it, we're gonna mix those in with our other podcast episodes. Mm-hmm. And what we'll do is we'll make sure that after this we'll screenshot all the picks that we made. So we'll take those players off the board, and we'll try to keep them on. What?
I have a dad joke to end the show.
Oh, well, we have to, 100%.
It actually happened to me today. I actually said this to somebody in the supermarket, and I'm kind of disgusted with myself.
Okay. Before we get to that, we're going to leave some suspense for a second of what you said. So if you guys want to see a part 2 where we do a day 2, I'm going to say this. We're going to still do our old episodes. We're not just going to do like day 2, day 3 the next 2 weeks. We're going to go back to normal stuff next week with Bobby, our normal episode and everything like that. But occasionally, up until the draft, we're going to sprinkle in day 2 and 3.
And we'll finish off the draft. We'll round the whole thing off. Hell, why not?
Yeah.
If people like it, if people like where we're coming from, if they like our ideas, which they won't, and I can't wait for that. You know what? That's what I can't wait for. I can't wait for the 1 or 2 people to be like, why would they take these people? And then when you go into the next round and we make sense of it, it's like, shit.
Yeah,
I want
and that's
that
what
to
it is.
happen.
And the best part about that as well, before we get to ending the show, is that what we're actually going to do, if you guys notice, if you are in the 40-Yard Dad's Den on Facebook, we're doing the Rebuilding the Patriots series, where we're voting as a group on what we're doing. So I think, like, in this sense, I didn't really base it off of that because that's a whole separate thing. But that's another thing. We like doing this stuff. We're mostly a football podcast, if we're going to be honest with you. It probably, if I had to guess, it would go football first, then it would then be basketball, then hockey, then baseball.
I just want to give a quick RIP shout out to Billy Russo. He sent me a Snapchat. It says reason 1 to not buy jerseys. It's Eagles. So Bill, congratulations, you got on the pod today.
Yeah, I will only buy jerseys if it's a player from a team that I like from like a team that I'm a fan of. So the Lions or the Patriots.
You mean
or
Derwin?
Or if the player is a generational talent, like a Patrick Mahomes style player, where like like it doesn't matter.
They're gonna be around. So
like that jersey is gonna be iconic. Whatever team he if he ends up like leaving after his contract, like
you gotta buy the jerseys like the Jamarcus Russells and the Robert Griffin III's.
But you know what I mean. So anyway, Brady, end us off with a dad joke. This has been one long episode. I'm glad we did it as a normal one because we're at an hour, and I didn't think we would make it there.
I didn't think
right
so
on
either.
the sweet spot.
This is great. So this actually happened to me in the supermarket. I went to the supermarket while it was snowing. Of course, started snowing, and I needed to get the rest of the stuff. I needed a few snacks because I need to fill my tummy somehow. And I put everything on the belt. It was going down, and then she gets to the milk. And she said, "Would you like the milk in the bag?" And I said, "No, thank you. I'll just leave it in the carton." And I got an eye roll and nobody laughed, and it kind of sucked, but it was so painful.
You knew you had to do it, though.
I knew I had to do it. I had to do it. Come on. You can't set yourself up like that.
No.
Right? You can't. You can't do that. You know, it's right there. I had to take it. I took the shot. It got shot down, and that's a perfect dad joke. Thank you.
It is, and we are ending the show here. Again, let us know if you guys want to do it. We will be back next week with Bobby doing a regular episode. Everything's fine with Bobby. He's just doing an interview right now for some work stuff. And
good luck, Bobby. We love you.
Luck, and we will see you guys next week. Peace out.
Yes, sir.